Welcome to another Founder Wisdom podcast. We have Mike Vardy with us today. Mike is a writer, is a productivity strategist, a time management specialist, a speaker, and a workshop leader. He's in Victoria, British Columbia, and we were geeking out on computers. And Mike is already scolding me. He's really a strategic type of guy, I would say, very clear in his indications and recommendations. Already love my conversations with you, Mike. Mike, tell us a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Thanks so much for having me, Charles. Really appreciate it. I am, I guess you mentioned, based in Victoria, BC, Canada. Loving life here on the island. I've lived here for about 25 years, and I've been working in this space for at least 15 now. I always gauge it around the time that my son was born, because that's when I officially left my film festival job as operations manager to actually do this full time. I am a productivity, as you mentioned, strategist. I've kind of moved up the ranks from being an enthusiast to a specialist to a strategist. I'm even going down the philosophical bent a bit more now, which I kind of get into a little bit in my book, which just came out this year, The Productivity Diet, a practical guide to nurturing your productive potential. But I've been doing this for a long time. I've got a podcast called A Productive Conversation. Speaker. I've done a couple TEDx talks. I've got some LinkedIn learning classes, some Skillshare classes. And I just love my biggest thing is I want to help people stop doing productive. In other words, trying to check off as many boxes as possible, which invariably leads to checking off the wrong boxes rather, and start being productive. Like, a balance between quantity and quality, and embracing productivity as a lifestyle as opposed to a series of hacks. So again, my biggest, we geek out about tech and stuff like that. As we're recording this, Apple just finished their worldwide developers conference. So I always keep my toe in that a little bit, because I used to write for Cult of Mac and the Next Web, and that's kind of where I started in terms of diving into productivity. I was a managing editor at Lifehack. I've contributed to a bunch of different websites there, such as Lifehacker and Fast Company and so on and so forth. But I've kind of leaned more into a productiveness model, sort of the state of being productive. And I'm really happy to be here and share my work and my thoughts and insights with you today.
Let's start with Apple, right? Because I'm an Apple fanboy. It's just beautiful technology. It's luxury, right? So there's a part of branding, and I think the UX is just like more simple than Microsoft. Microsoft acquired OpenAI, so that sort of gives them an edge. And I'm more an AI fanboy than I am a Mac fanboy. And yesterday, I think Marquise Brownlee texted on Twitter that he asked Siri if there was an event yesterday, and she didn't even know. Do you think Apple still has a shot productivity wise if their AI, their Siri is not even following course?
I think that, and again, it's funny because I've been frustrated with Apple's AI just as much as anyone else, to the point where, it's connected to ChatGPT in the past. There's so many things that it's tried to do, and it's fumbled the ball on it. It kind of like reminds me when it fumbled the ball with cloud storage, right? When Dropbox, when they tried to acquire Dropbox, couldn't make it happen, and then they built iCloud, and iCloud was kind of a real mess. And it's still never, they finally have got it working in a way that kind of appeases the masses. And I think that's kind of where they may end up going with AI is, like a business, they're going to niche into, okay, oh, you want the AI stuff? Well, in your business, you may want to look at partnering up with, like, say, again, Google's got Gemini, right? So maybe we'll go spend some time there. I just got an email from Google the other day saying that AI is now part of my Google Apps package, whether I like it or not. So it's there, it's here to stay. And I think the one thing that Apple has always seemed to do is when they fumble the ball or when they get caught behind, is rather than rush forward, is they take a step back and reassess. And I still think they're in that phase. As much as Marcus mentioned that, Siri didn't know what an event was. Another company that's kind of been using AI for a while in a very different way, Amazon, you could ask Alexa a variety of things and it won't know what's going on either, right? Yeah. So there's still... and I think I saw an article this week, which I thought was rather funny, about how Deep Blue won that chess match handily, and yet OpenAI or AI could not beat an Atari, like 1980s, late 70s, early 80s technology when it came to a chess match. So there's still a long way to go. And I don't think Apple is the type of company that will try to be the hare in the tortoise and the hare race. They'll kind of watch and see what's happening. But yeah, Siri it's a mess. And the great thing about technology is that you have choices. I don't use exclusively Apple products. Obviously, I mentioned I use Google products. I have a Chat GPT account that I use quite frequently. I'm using other tools as well. I think it's Magi is one of them that combines them all. I'm looking at that. So I'm exploring that more because AI can definitely be a springboard to balancing that quantity and quality that we're looking for when it comes to being productive. But yeah, I mean, it's a wait and see thing, I think, for Apple. But I mean, as somebody who's been a follower and a fanboy for a while, and again, having, spent a lot of time working, I mean, my first Apple computer in recent history, when I first started going down this path, was an eMac. So I've been in it for a while. I think I'm going to reserve judgment to say that they are going to, they're not going to be able to catch up. I just think that they've still got quite a ways to go.
Right. I don't think they'll fade away though, because they have such a money mode, but OpenAI is catching up pretty quickly. And we can assume that the partnerships with Alexa and Siri failed OpenAI wise, right? Because technically, or with the speakers, right? Like they could, OpenAI partnership people could have outreach to these Apple and Alexa / Amazon people and be like, hey, do you want to integrate ChatGPT to your speaker? We're going to take charge of everything. You just do nothing and get the cash, and they probably refuse, right? So I think
the privacy thing, I think, is still a big thing that people are monitoring. I mean, Apple was very, in the previous WWDC, privacy was such a huge component of it, right? And it still is. And I think a lot of when you look at Apple, they've gone so much towards the iOS, the mobile market, and a lot of people that use Apple computers, because it's still, I mean, the one thing that Apple fans get caught up in is that they think Apple is the be all and end all. And they forget that Apple is still, I mean, iPhones are still nowhere near the market share that, Android has, right? And when it comes to computing power, Windows is still king, right? Despite Microsoft's fumbles many, many, many times over the years, right? So I think privacy is a big concern for Apple, and it has been for a while. And their user base is aging too, right? So a lot of older people will use Apple products because, like you mentioned off the top, simplicity of use and so on and so forth. So they've got concerns about privacy. So it's that, I think to your point, they could have partnered. And Apple's like, well, we want to make sure you've got privacy in check. And there's still some questions around that because Anthropic's another one they could have partnered with. Like there's a bunch, right? So it'll be interesting to see where that balance lies. I think that's what Apple might be looking for, or who knows? I mean, they could out of nowhere next WWDC say, hey, we have our own AI now. Here you go. And all of a sudden they surprise us with it. And it's at the level that, or closer to the level that some of the other models are at faster than we might have anticipated. So, again, like you said, they're not down for the count. I wouldn't count them out.
Right. I think it still wouldn't be impressive because they literally took 4 friggin' years to do it, or 5, which is, it's like, yeah, you can do better with $1 trillion. But let me get back to the privacy point, which is quite interesting. Don't you feel that because of their lack of regards for privacy, OpenAI are what they are today? I think the technology itself is just move fast and break things. And I don't think that they sort of violated privacy. I think they just went Silicon Valley style. I just have different values on my end. I don't really care about privacy. And the second question here is, do you think that most people are disregarding their privacy as time goes with social media, Facebook, and all of that?
I think you bring up really 2 good points there. So number one, actually, it's quite funny. This happened a couple days ago. I was going to share something on a social media app, and my iPhone popped up. You know how you get that pop-up that says, so-and-so, this app has been using, looking at your photos for X number of days. Do you want to continue to? Yes. I don't even go, no, let's limit it or whatever. It's more because I think part of the problem is, and this actually I address in the book, is this idea of absolutes. Like either, it's all or nothing. I'm going to give them access to everything, or I'm going to give them access to nothing. If you're on the internet, if you've been using the internet, you've already been giving them a bit of your data, and there's no putting it back in the box. The Pandora's box is open. Now you can be judicious about it, and I think you should be. But to your point, I don't think Open AI or some of the, any of these are going, well, you know what? Privacy is such a huge deal for us. So if it was, then you're right. How are you going to group all, how are the LLMs going to learn if privacy is the paramount concern, right? So I think that there's a balance there where you have to decide, okay, how much am I willing to put into AI? How much am I willing to give access, to whether it's Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, how far am I willing to go? And I think the other thing that's really, people don't think about this is, oh, AI is so new, this is all, fresh and shiny. I'm like, no, you've been using AI for a long, if you use Google Maps or Apple Maps, that's AI. It is, because if you are driving, if you're driving down the street in your hometown and you have maps on and it says, oh, there's an accident up ahead. If you go left here, it'll speed up your route by 2 minutes. That's AI. That's artificial intelligence going, hey, that's happening. It's not necessarily as transparent or as, quote, open, but it's still happening. And you've already kind of done that, right? And, we hear all the time about, my wife mentioned this the other day. They were talking about something, and all of a sudden Facebook started showing her things that, were related to what she was talking about. I think my microphone's listening to me. I'm like, possibly, probably, who knows? So you have to just decide how far you're willing to go. And with AI, Charles, like, I won't put certain things in AI. As much as I love using the tools, there's certain things like I'm not going to upload. Well, here's an example. For the Kickstarter campaign for this, I didn't upload like all the backers' addresses to give me a collated response because it's their information. I didn't want to give that to, so I did it myself, right? But if I am trying to, let's say, take a blog post and create some social media posts out of it, sure, I have no problem doing that because it's my content. I am reworking it and repurposing it and leveraging the intelligence that LLMs have no matter which one I'm using, because it knows this is what LinkedIn likes, this is what Facebook likes, this is what X likes, whatever. That's okay. So it's about making choices, and not just from the other side of the equation, Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, what have you, but as the user. And the tricky part is that the world is moving so quickly that often we just go, yep, that's fine. No, that's okay. Just have access. So if you take like a beat and go, oh, it's Instagram. Do I really want Meta to have access to this all the time? Because we all know we don't read the terms and services of any of these. We just don't. But here's the great thing you could do with AI. Hey, AI, can you read the terms and services of this app and tell me, what I should be concerned about? And it will tell you, and then you can decide. So this is a way you could use AI to help protect your privacy if you want. But yeah, we're going to have to, I think one of the things that AI, and really this is not new, should compel us to do is to take a pause, pay attention to this stuff a little bit more, and make better decisions around what we're willing to put out there as opposed to what we're not.
Yeah, interesting. I have got all in with AI, so I feed it pretty much everything. I even feed it my clients' data, like not anything sensitive, right? But I do cold email for them, so I'm going to feed it my full client's creative brief, for example, their full website, their full posts, so that the AI can learn and it can write stuff for them and it can understand, it can be my assistant. I do trust OpenAI. Sam Altman, I relate a lot with him. He's also affiliated with Microsoft, which is a pretty stable company. I don't trust Grok at all. And Elon, like with everything that he did, like this guy's totally bunker. I wouldn't trust Zuck either, right? Like with everything that he did with Facebook and sort of a startup mentality and growth at all costs, like way too much on the ultra side of capitalism and disregard. But the question is like, what could happen, right? Like with that data, one, it could be leaked, right? So cybersecurity incident, but then I guess the AI getting smarter and sort of taking a piece of your brain. But I'm also fine with that, you know,
Yeah, you
like
have to weigh. You have to weigh it. You have to decide, right? Like, I mean, I mean, OpenAI is the one that I feel is probably the most principled. Maybe is the best way to put it. Compared, I mean, I was at Tiago Forte's building a second brain summit last year
yeah,
in
top guy.
October, and it was fantastic. And Stephen Johnson was there presenting what's been going on with Notebooks LM for Google, which I think is a fantastic tool for research and all that. I was talking to my daughter about it, who's in university now, and she's like, I don't really know what I should use for research. I'm like, if you're building papers and writing, like, this is a tool for you. I go, and what Stephen showed us, which, I mean, I think everyone has seen at this point, but back then it was still fairly new, was how he gave it a bunch of information from a lecture in Notebook LM, and then had two AI podcast hosts discuss it as a podcast episode. And what was fascinating about it wasn't just the fact that they were able to do that, and it was a male host and a female host, but what was really interesting were some of the human-centric kind of qualities that it had. For example, they had crosstalk, kind of what we just did, where I'm like, you know, you talk, like, it can't, we kind of went over each other a little bit. I tend to do that sometimes. But also little like laughter, like what you just did, like, you know, a chuckle and things like that. So again, it's about attention. And you've decided, you even said this, and I've done this too with clients. I will give my client a number rather. So if I have a client named Charles Cormier, I will give them client number 0561. So I have that data that I go, oh, 0561 is Charles, and that's how I know. So that's the simple code that I could use. And then I'm not giving them, oh, here's Charles and here's his, you know, email, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's a way to do it. But again, you have to watch speed when it comes to this, because the great thing about AI is it's super fast, right? Like, it's incredibly quick, faster in a lot of ways because it's grabbing from a bunch of different sources, and that is a huge advantage. But you should be able, what you should do, and what I encourage people to do in this situation is, okay, you're going to catch up with that speed when you input it. So take a moment, pause, and be smart and wise about what you put in, because you're going to make up for it once you give it the information in a way that actually makes sense to you in terms of values, principles, ethics, whatever you want to look at. Because it's like when you get a new iPhone or a new Android device or a new computer, they don't come packaged for you like, hey, this is how Mike likes it set up, or this is how Charles like. You have to sit back and go, okay, well, I don't like these notifications and I want these out of the dock, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't like using Safari, so I'm going to download Chrome, or I want to get Brave, or, you know, the web browser Brave, or what have you. They ship it like, this is what we want. This is what we want you to use. So therefore, that's what we're going to give you, is this is what we want. So if you take time to just a few minutes and just, all right, how should I do this in a way that makes sense and upholds the kind of things that I want, that's going to make it useful for me, but also in a way that, you know, kind of, if privacy is your paramount concern, that's what you look at. If, you know, if your tone is a paramount concern, that could be it. So it's just about, you know, the trade-off of, I'm going to slow down on my end because AI is going to speed it up when I give it to it. I think that's something that we should be thinking about more, and I don't necessarily think that we do.
Right. Talking productivity and AI, like, I want to hear specific use case about you using AI to skyrocket your productivity. And do you feel that we're about to hit a productivity hyper growth curve, and eventually it's going to top when there's going to be AI agents? Like, do you feel that productivity as a topic, as a discipline, will ever fade away?
No, because we always have to be productive, but it'll change. So I wrote an essay 3 years ago for a magazine, for Simplicity magazine, or Simplicity magazine. And it was about the path to productiveness. And here's the interesting thing is, before the term productivity existed, we used the term productiveness. And so productiveness was the state of being productive. Productivity is the activity, the act of producing, right? Like, that's really what it is. The power and quality to produce, especially in abundance. That's the definition of productivity. The abundance part is interesting because people often think, well, I have to do a lot. Abundance means quantity, right? Not necessarily. Abundance could mean quality. It could be a balance of things. So what I think this will do, and by the way, we switched from productiveness to productivity during the second industrial revolution when things got faster, when we were able to make more, when we were able to do things quicker, right? So I think what I think will happen is, as a result of what AI can do for us with AI agents and with prompt engineering and all of these things that we can put in advance. Because if you've been an Apple guy for a long time, as have I, like Text Expander, I can create snippets for Text Expander. It's really, now I'm doing the same thing in a different way for AI. I'm creating these boilerplate kind of things that say, hey, this is how I like my social media post to look. No emojis, less hashtags, and that's the prompt. And it goes, okay, I know this now. Thank you very much. And it'd be like giving it to your assistant, but you have to speak to it right now, like as at least initially, like it's a child, right? Like it doesn't know. And it will always be that way. And I don't know about you. Do you have conversations with AI like as if it's a human? I thank it.
100%.
I know Altman says stop being so polite to AI, but that's who I am. So I'm like, thank you. It's like, no problem. You know, like I will say, I'm not ready to proceed with, I'll actually say to AI when I'm working on something. So an example is, again, would you like to take these social media posts and turn them into a carousel or whatever? And I'm like, not right now. I'll come back to this later. And it'll say, thank you for letting me know. I'll be here when you need me. This is a great start. Like it does all the motivation stuff. I'm like, all right, thanks. Thanks for that, machine. But what I think will happen is if we use it in the hands of the right people, and again, this is individual, this is personal, it will allow us to get back to productiveness, where we can have this balance of quantity, because AI can take care of that part for us, and quality. So we'll see this, and you're seeing it already, whether it's books on Amazon, whether it's blog posts, people who are using AI just to write them and put them up. I came across somebody who did this on Medium. They actually used the name Productivityist, which is my brand, and we're shifting away from it. But they used it, and they created the amount of blog posts that came out in a week were like 20. I'm like, no one's writing 20 blog posts in a week. And remember, I've been blogging for a long time, so I remember blog farms. I remember when you would spread those posts out to like a bunch of these haphazard sites that were just all about making money and clicks and all that stuff, right? And I was able to, you could tell immediately. You can read something and go, that's written by AI. That's not only because of the quality of it, but that output was insane in one day. Not a chance. So I think that you're going to have people who are going to go, I'm going to do this and just let AI do everything. And just like back when we had blog farms, they will suffer over the long haul. It won't necessarily, you'll be able to tell. And you already are able to tell. It's not sustainable. I think that judiciously used, you can say, okay, I have this idea for this book. Help me walk through the process of building it. It'll go, okay, or courses or what have you, or working with a client. Hey, you know what? This client, I am not a 63-year-old woman living in North Dakota who's having issues with getting ready to retire and wants to still kind of do some stuff. I can only speak from my vantage point, but I can say, hey, what advice would you give from me, because you know who I am, because I've given you so much information. How should I approach this? And it goes, here's what I would do. And you go, okay, let me look at this and see what actually would work. That's where I think we'll be able to have the quality come back. So I think, oddly enough, AI will take us back to productiveness over productivity. So I think we're heading that way again, depending on who's using it, right? So some people will still be cranking out quantity after quantity after quantity, and that's fine. But in the long run, it will suffer. I think the people using it the right way, quality will shine, because you'll be able, that's what we'll be doing. We'll be doing quality control. We already are.
Right. Like one of my favorite prompts as well, ironically, is like, how does it feel to be that lady at 64? Describe me her psychometrics, her current situation, her day-to-day, her diet, her habits, like all of that, right? And really do a deep research on that. My question for you is, productivity will probably end when capitalism ends. Do you feel that this will actually happen? Because if we just have an army of AI agent, let's call it us the 1%, like super productive, super successful. I think will create like so much value. And at some point, bunch of people will lose their jobs. I think it's starting now actually, but we're gonna see that peak in 2 years from now, and we're gonna have to take care of these people. Do you agree with these principles, and do you feel that most people would kind of have to disregard productivity and just like live a good life at 24/7 in a
Yeah.
couple of years from now?
Yeah, I think we're always going to want to be productive. Humans want to feel like they're contributing in some way, shape, or form. I think the problem is that we end up doing the wrong things, possibly for the wrong people or for the wrong reasons. So I think that purpose or purposeful productivity or productiveness is where we'll go. So people, again, AI gives, if used properly, it gives you room to breathe. It gives you, I mean, what one of the top uses of AI right now is honestly reflective practices,
Yep.
therapeutic practices.
Yeah.
Hey, what should I do about this? Da 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 da. People are reflecting on. Now, I mean, we could go down too far down that rabbit hole, like Joaquin Phoenix in that movie Her, where it's like, okay, well now but because we always humans crave connection, right? Like we want, like you and I are chatting right now, and we have a screen separating us, which is great. I would never meet you otherwise, but there's also that connection face to face. I had a book launch party a few weeks ago, and having people in the same room with me, there's a different kind of energy, right? And just like the energy we have now is different from the energy that we had at that book launch party, the energy that you see conveyed on social media or through TikTok, where it's one to many, is also different. So I think the world, I mean, we always go through change. And also keep in mind, we're in an echo chamber when we talk about this too. There are people that are still like either afraid of AI, don't know how they would use it in their lives. I have to tell you, there was a person that was like, I don't know how I could use AI in my job. And they were a kitchen manager. So they were in charge of like ordering inventory and all that stuff. And keep in mind, part of my background before I got into this, and a lot of my principles came from Costco. I worked for Costco for like a dozen years, and I was
Great company. I worked there
yeah.
too.
Did you? Did you really?
Yeah.
What did you do
Yeah, I
there?
packed the bags.
Oh, you were a front end assistant. You were a front end assistant. I was I was the food court and service deli supervisor here in Victoria. So you can
Oh,
imagine two different departments, right? You've seen the food court, so you know the hot dog and soda, and it's just constantly busy.
delicious. The
It's
poutine.
great. It's great, but in demand, right? Like it's not, it's an impulse buy. Although you generally know people would just come in to get that. They wouldn't even go to buy anything else. So it's very much an on-demand, a very responsive department. The service deli, where the rotisserie chickens are, there's more planning involved and things of that nature. So basically, what I learned from, that business is simple, flexible, durable, sustainable. And the reason Costco's been so successful is they keep it simple. They don't get, I mean, the floors are poured concrete, the shelves are steel, the things they keep everything on are the pallets. And that's the way that they kind of have organized it, and they move things around. But even they're making changes. Like you can't necessarily go into the food court anymore in certain parts of Canada or the US. And I don't know if Mexico is the same unless you have a membership card. So everything is constantly changing. But I think that there will be certain jobs that AI just can't do, but it will free you up to do a better job. Let's say again, as that kitchen manager, where it's like, all right, well, how do I use it? Well, you've got to put a menu together for this week, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, what's your inventory? Oh, well, here it is. Well, upload your inventory to OpenAI or whatever tool you're going to use, and then say, I need to come up with specials for this week. And I know that they take a look at my inventory and take a look at my past sales and how my inventory consumption is and my shrink. You're going to upload all that and go, tell me what my menu should be this week so I have less waste, because that's a controllable, right? And they're like, oh, I could do that. I'm like, yeah. And it will take it very little time. Now, back to what I was saying before, and I'm sure you agree, you can't take that at face value, right? Because it may get something wrong. It may not necessarily get the nuances of what may be going on. For example, the weather in your part of the world, or what if you've got people who come in out of Costco, you've seen this before. People can just come in all at once. You're like, there's no rhyme or reason to the food court lunch schedule. When I worked at an actual fast food restaurant, you knew Lunchtime, dinner time is going to be busier. Costco, throw that out the window. So I think when people figure out what they can use it for, they'll start to use it. And then what does that do for people who are like, well, what's my job look like now? I think quality control, I think there's certain things it can't do. Like, I mean, the front end assistant job, AI can't do that. AI can't
I
do
think
that
it can. I think
yet.
yeah, but it's moving so fast. I think most of these people are doomed because that same person that doesn't know how to use ChatGPT, they know how to use TikTok, right? And
Yep.
they're
Mhm.
serotonin slave. I had near Ayal on my pod 2 days ago, and yeah, we're pretty much doomed on that level. And I think yeah, these folks they and even I feel productive sometimes, but it's just a feeling. When I truly reflect IQ wise, if I've been productive, I'm like, this is kids play. Like an AI could have done a 10x better job. And I think it just productivity is just a feeling. I mean, yes, and I have an insane output, like
Mhm.
I have a couple of business that make 50K per month, and I'm like part of the 1%, but I still feel that I could very much be replaced by an AI. And to the point about if there's an important decision to be made, I'm just gonna outsource it to various AIs, maybe a couple of human brains. I'm gonna take more of my time. I'm gonna check the details, but I'm just gonna cross reference, and ultimately, it's gonna be a better. It's gonna do a better job than if my human brain is gonna be scanning the full thing and making a decision out of that. So I pretty much think that productivity will be like a machine thing. I do think that as humans, we have like super skills, like intuition, for example, and we're gonna explore the brain, the gut, how does it work, and how we get to things. We're gonna discover these superpowers. But I think that yeah, productivity is mostly a feeling nowadays. It's not like something that is really true and hardcore.
Well, I think the other thing to keep in mind is back to my point about connection with humans. I think that no matter, I mean, I'm Gen X, the boomers, I mean, as AI gets more popular, you're obviously going to see that again, AI ends up like boomers won't be there to necessarily see the impact of it, but millennials, all that, there is this craving of human connection, right?
Yeah.
And I think that will still be there. So there
Oh
will be
yeah, that will
roles.
stay.
Right. So I think that if we keep that in mind, and you mentioned the word productivity, and I think you're right. I think AI and the machines will handle that. The question is, and this goes back to my point about productiveness, is that I believe that we can then focus on the quality. I think that's where that comes in. So that's where that balance shows up. We're going to be at a point where, again, when productivity was born from productiveness, machines couldn't do this stuff. You had to have the human cranking the wheel and doing all that stuff. Now you're going to get to a point where the machines, you can just say, hey, do this, and it will do it. That allows us to focus on the quality, which is where productiveness comes in. So instead of writing a ton of books that are not good, you'll be able to have AI help you. Let's say if that's the way you want to go, and then you can go, all right, well, I want to change this and move this around and so on and so forth. I mean, even I think Timbaland, I saw a news item that he's building an entire music studio built on AI to create new genres of music, right? We're seeing video stuff show up right now, which is like, this is what a sitcom could look like. I mean, you look at TikTok and all that. I think what's interesting, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is there is still a lot of, you can perceive when video is, hey, this is definitely AI. Like you can tell, right? Audio though, that's where I think it's going to be tricky because you don't get to see, right? We talked about this with the podcasters, right? Like you couldn't tell if they were human or not unless oh wait, they're pronouncing this wrong or they're getting the information wrong. Um, one of the artists on Spotify that was on my Unwrapped, which again AI was a huge part of. I think they partnered with Google Gemini on that this year. Was if a band puts up a fake bio or a fun bio, AI will take that as gospel, right? Like, oh, well, this band was formed in the 1920s, but yet they're still performing. Interesting. So to me, it's very, very fascinating the way things are headed. And I go in with curiosity more than judgment because we don't know. Like, as we get older, and I'm 50, going to be 51 in a few weeks, I'm far more comfortable not knowing and just keeping my eyes open than being like, well, this is where I think this is where it will go. And number one, I'm not afraid of it either. I think that fear is going to be the thing that causes problems with the way AI can work alongside humans, because when fear shows up, then people think AI will replace humans. And I don't think that's going to be 100% the case. It definitely will be replacing humans in certain areas or aspects of certain areas, but I don't think it's going to replace. And I don't think we're going to be sitting here going, our AI overlords, et cetera, et cetera. I think that gets a little bit of hyperbole, and I don't think we're going to get there, at least not in my lifetime. And really, when I'm out of time, I'm right now traveling through time, as we all are. When my relationship with time is over, what happens after that? My job is to, at this point, make the most of it and help people navigate their relationship with time as well.
Yeah, with the overlord stuff, I think ants don't realize that we are like highly superior to them. Like when we squash them, they don't even know what happened, you know. So I think that will be what will be happening to us. I think you and I, though, and people that are very high performance folks that are entrepreneurs most of the time, right? Because entrepreneur teaches you everything, or like 99% of what you need to know to be successful, to be productive, happy, but also just like survive this very harsh future that's coming your way. I think we won't have problems with that future, but I think that most people that show up for 9 to 5 and just want a paycheck, I do think these people will be in deep waters for sure. To your point about knowing the difference between video and audio, I think that's just like a time difference, right?
Video will catch up. Video will catch up.
It will catch up, and I think most professions will sort of eat it. I think in the end, it's like about brain development, and are you like super adaptable? Do you like the EQ part is quite important as well, like making relationships with humans. Like me, I'm arguably this podcast probably has like a year or two of runway till the time that I can make relationships with humans, and I don't outsource that to your AI talking to my AI, you know. So it'll be kind of interesting to see.
Well, and I think the other interesting thing is that and we're headed there, you're absolutely right. As AI becomes more prevalent, then the things that we will focus on managing more are the things we actually can manage, because we can't manage time. Time moves on whether we want it to or not. Like right now, we're 50 minutes into this conversation and it's flown by. Like there's no, we humans are terrible at knowing how long something will take. We either see things drag as we're bored, or if we're in the zone, that flies by. So when we say I want to manage my time, that's arrogance, because time, we should be in a partnership with it, right? But the things we can manage are things like energy, right? We can manage that. We know I'm a night owl. I'm up fairly early to have this conversation with you today to do this kind of thing. So I had to make sure that I had all my ducks in a row, right? I had to make sure I was ready. That I can manage, right? And after we're done here, I'll go for a walk and rebuild my reserves, et cetera, so that when the afternoon comes, I can actually hit the ground doing my creative work. We can manage expectations, right? We can manage those. But when it comes to this, I think the thing that we really need to focus on is managing our attention, which I've alluded to a whole bunch of times, because really being productive, the real definition of the human aspect of it is the alignment or the link between your intentions, what you intend to do, big or small, and your attention. Okay, how are you going to make sure that happens? And that's attention. So I think AI provides us this time and space to allow us to better manage our attention, should we decide to do that. And when you talk about tools like TikTok and all of these other, there's no question that there are things that are trying to gain and keep our attention. And I think that, imagine if you could say to AI, and you can now, heck, you could do that with Amazon. Hey, Amazon, give me my daily news. Alexa, tell me and it'll give you what you say you wanted to learn about. Apple News on your iPad. Hey, these are the things I'm curating, right? I want to see this. But I think we're going to get to the point like, hey, you know what I like. Tell me what I should be paying attention to before I start my day. And it'll tell you. And then you're not looking at all the news that you really don't have necessarily any control over. So it'll allow you to take command over the things you can. So I think that while we'll also regain elements of the time we spend doing things, which will allow us to be more productive overall. What it will do is allow us to give more attention to what we actually intend to do, which will allow us to be more productive in whatever pursuits we are choosing to pursue.
Right. I love that. I think the future would be me looking, for example, in sales, right? Like I'm in sales, Top
Mm-hmm.
Leads, GTM's my main company. I would see if me and Mike share the same values. So there would be some kind of algorithm that would mention that Mike would be a 93% fit or
Yeah.
a 60% fit. And I wouldn't prospect you if you would be on the lower end of that algorithm. Also, I think this algorithm would show my deliverability rate, like if I have a high success rate, so that would be transparent. And last, it would probably show my agents, right? Like to mention like if I'm qualified to do that, not even my brain, right? Because agents would mostly do it. What do you think of that future in sales? Because I've seen a bunch of people trying to hack sales in ways it shouldn't be. Like had a guy, I think at Pitchfire's this company. Ryan's a great guy, but he's trying to reinvent cold email. Like every time you get a cold email, then you get an email back saying, "Hey, do you want to pitch me on Pitchfire instead of cold email?" I don't think that's going to work. I think what is going to work is just like an algorithm and a score that would show me if I'm trustworthy or not. It's kind of random question, but what do you think about that one?
Well, I think that's a great question, because we'll go back to the immutable laws of marketing, right? That book was the six immutable laws of marketing. Like those older texts, the timeless advice, the timeless trope. Like that's why Stoicism is so big again right now. Like all of these things that have existed before, we can pay more attention to. So that allows you to make better decisions around how you'll use AI agents and your own workflows to not only not waste the time of you when you're like, hey, this person isn't qualified and I don't even need to cold pitch them, but also the person on the other end, right? Because I mean, I'll give you a great example. I was at a book fair this past weekend and somebody came up to my table and they asked me what my book was about. And I told them and they said, well, can you give me something in the book that would help me? And I went right to energy, because a big thing that I think people don't do is they don't listen to their body clocks when it comes to work. And I said, what if you could look at your to-do list and see, hey, these are all my low energy tasks and these are all my high energy tasks, and work that way. And he said, well, I'm a workaholic. And he had a smile on his face a mile wide. And he goes, and I'm 80. And I'm like, okay. So my brain immediately went, number one, he's been like this for a long time and he seems pretty happy about it. And even if he's just putting on a show or performative, I'm wasting my breath at this point. Not that we didn't have a great conversation afterwards about just the differences between his generation and my generation and productivity practices that way. But I think that, to your point, if you're looking at the right metrics, the qualitative ones, the human ones, and using metrics like KPIs and net promoter scores and all of these other kind of tools, OKRs, any kind of data that you can use to help you make a qualitative decision, I think is really valuable. You just got to make sure that, number one, the data is serving you properly. And number two, it seems like there's a human on the other side of the conversation, because the last thing you want, and I get this all the time. I got this on Instagram the other day. It was funny. Somebody said, hey, Ethan, love your content. And it was like, you could tell it was a boilerplate. And I said, I replied with, I'm not Ethan. And they replied with, sorry about that, Mark. And I'm like, I'm also not Mark. Thanks for reaching out. And they're like, oh my God, I wouldn't want to work with me either. And I left it at that. And all I hope is that person went, I need to take a beat before I send these. Because I'm sure you've also seen the memes where, and I've seen this on video, where that's like, people are writing emails using OpenAI or ChatGPT, and they forget to take out the top or the bottom. Like, here's a polite email that is passive aggressive, but will get your message across. And they leave that in there, or they're like, or they'll leave the bottom part
Passive aggressive.
Or it's like, let me know, or they'll have the email and they go, let me know if you'd like to refine this with a more professional tone, or if you want to send us
more passive aggressive and more attacks to that person.
But then you send it, right? And it's like, and so again, it's the slow. It's so funny because it's paradoxical, right? Like AI should allow us to speed things up, and it does. But in that moment, we should be going, okay, before I send this, because again, with ChatGPT, you just hit the copy button and you paste it. But because this is, I think, the bigger problem, Charles, is we've been so wired to move quickly. To your point about, productivity, go, fast, and now. We haven't clocked ourselves down yet in a general sense to go, hold up. Am I copying the right thing? Have I put the right person's name there, right? Have I done that? Those are the things that if we do that, that's going to help us with those kind of, because then they know it's a human, right? Or at least they can guess or suppose that it's a human, right? I think that that's the key to this. And to your point, there are people, I mean, I remember reading Invisible Selling Machine, and one of the things that drove me nuts was you've read Invisible Selling Machine, sure, by Ryan Dice. Have you read that book?
Yeah.
So
yes.
the nail biting story where
Yep.
you have this evergreen sequence where if the person doesn't buy, the email that would go out to them like a week later is like, still biting your nails? Like that's the subject line. And of course they are, right? So now you're using guilt and so on and so forth to kind of, and again, it's not new. It's been done all the time, right? You see it on it. I mean, it's an old tale, right? You're working, you were a stay-at-home mom in the 50s and now you're working out in the 80s, and the commercials would say, don't your kids deserve a home-cooked meal? But you work all day, and why wouldn't it? Now, if that happened today, you got Uber Eats, right? Or you've got Postmates, or you've got whatever. So again, none of like time, these things evolve over time, but a lot of the things stay the same. What did Bezos say? We don't focus on what changes, we focus on what stays the same. There is this great time management book that I think everybody should read. If you're watching this live, it's called How to Live on 24 Hours a Day. It's a free book. You can get it at Gutenberg or archive.org. It's written by Arnold Bennett, and it's over 100 years old. If you read that book now, it's short. It's only 80 pages. You'll be like, holy smokes. There's a bit of a platform change. There's things that are smarter, faster, better now, but human behavior generally hasn't changed. So as long as you're keeping human behavior in mind, and AI allows you to do that and also slow yourself down so you can make better choices, I think it'll help your sales, but only if you're taking that time and space to do it right.
Love it. Well, Mike, thanks for being on today. Where can people find out more about you?
Well, you can pick up the book, The Productivity Diet, at mikevardy.com/lit, which is short for literature, so LIT. And also, I'm Mike Vardy everywhere on social. So if you want to go do that. And I do have my weekly newsletter called The Lantern. So if you want to go to mikevardy.com/light, LIGHT, then you can get weekly emails from me that offer, things that you can learn, listen, look at, and just, kind of adopt a lifestyle that is more productive in a sustainable, durable, simple, and flexible way.
Love it. So that was Mike and Charles for another Founder